So we are going to be closing out our series of abundance today. And I got to be a little reflective on it this week because it's interesting. Human behavior totally fascinates me. And sometimes when we talk about abundance, sometimes the excitement isn't there as much as I think it could be or should be. And I don't know what it is for us that sometimes maybe we might think that we're not worthy of the abundance that's coming our way. Maybe we might put limits to our imagination and say, oh, I would like this, but you don't want too much. But it's okay because God wants us to have all of the divine ideas that come forth, all of the substance that comes forth, all of the good relationships that come forth. The song that Lainey just sang speaks of if we kept love in our forefront and kept that as part of our zeal, I think the world that we outwardly see would change so much. So much. And as I was spending some time with my sister-in-law yesterday for her birthday, I was reminded of a story that Sam tells me when Lauren was little. When she would get excited about something, she would get so excited that she would literally shake with the grin on her face. I don't know if she does that now so much, but we should. We should get that gleeful excitement, and it doesn't have to be anything major. I was remembering a time when I was little, we lived off of Radham Lane in South First Street, first 5 years of my life. And I drove by the house just the other day. And after church on Sundays, we would go out to dinner somewhere. Sometimes it was Luby's. That's one place I remember. The other place was A&W Root Beer. Dan's Burgers is where that was. And 3 to 4 year old me clearly remembers going up. There was a bar stool. I remember sitting in the bar stool. I remember the joy of my feet hanging down. I still get that joy. There aren't many places I can sit where my feet dangle anymore. And I remember them bringing the root beer. And in my mind's eye, this was how big the mug was in my 3 to 4 year old mind. Fast forward decades, and we're cleaning out the house on South First Street, and I come across a mug with the A&W logo on it. And I pick it up, and I stare at it, and I look at my mom, and I said, were the mugs always this size? She's like, yeah, honey, why? And I went, I don't remember them being this little. They were like a regular 16-ounce mug. This is how I remember them. This is how they are. And it didn't make me sad. It made me reflective in the fact that everything that comes to us is the savory sweetness, no matter what size of container it comes in, that we can imagine it to be huge. There's no container for the overflow. Just as much as that root beer foamed and fizzed and oozed out of the cold glass onto the sides where you're like licking it with your tongue because you don't want to miss any of the goodness. Life is like that when we allow ourselves to see from that perspective. And so I chose to do this series of powers last in this. Because of the excitement, because of the joy, because of the zeal of being able to expect what we have coming for us. That I want to leave you with that excitement because I gave you the tools to prepare you for the journey before. And Charles Fillmore gives us this one in The Mysteries of Genesis. Zeal is a strong force, the urge behind all things and the impulse of every achievement. It sets in motion all the machinery of the universe to attain the object of its desire. And that's it. We have it. That's what we need. We need that spark that ignites the flame, that ignites the energy, that gives us the urgency. If we don't have zeal, we don't have the urgency. So while you may request something, it will come to you, but probably not as quickly, not with much ease or grace. Think of it like dial-up internet. Y'all remember? You remember? And you waited, and you waited, and you waited, and you waited, and waited. And now, just like that, most of the time, unless there's a bunch of people on your same shared band, but most of the time, in general, it comes pretty quick. And so if we think of ourselves in that zeal moment where we keep that spark of what excites us, that keeps that energy movement, keeps it coming for us. There might be some things like, I don't know if you've been in, so if you live in a neighborhood, there's like one box that gets the shared bandwidth of, so that's why they tell you when they sell you the internet, up to 300 megahertz or megabytes of data coming your way. But if you live in a house or a neighborhood with lots of families, especially families with teenagers, probably around 7 or 8 o'clock, your internet's going to slow a little. Why? They're either all watching something or all gaming on something, which is sucking the data. So what is that in our world that kind of narrows that frequency out for us? Not being centered is one of those things. Not surrendering to the flow is one of those things. Have you ever thought you're doing something? I had this happen the other day. I'm working, the internet's going slow, and I'm like, why? Why is it going so slow? And I look up, and I must have at least 20 tabs open at the top. And I'm like, oh, I should probably shut some of these down. Same with our brain. If you have so much going on up there that you don't take the time to like close something and put it aside for a while, it'll still be there. Just set it aside for a little bit. Close your mental tabs so that you can keep that zeal going. Self-doubt might be one of those blocks that blocks that currency and frequency moving for you. Listening to the naysayers and believing them. You ever been around polypessimistic? Where you've got this huge idea and you're like, oh, I'm so excited because we're going to blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, but did you think about and what about? And I'm like, no, I didn't, and I don't want to. Leave me alone and let me be in my glory. Don't believe the naysayers. You have the source that tells you all the answers that you need to know. Without zeal, we can dampen our awareness and forget what is available to us. When we lose that excitement, when life just kind of does its thing for us, we can lose that energy of being excited for the new idea that happened and how you're going to play out that new idea. So how do we get past this where we're just like, ooh, I'm so excited, and then you start to lose your fizzle a little bit? Then how do we regain that zeal? Eric Butterworth, who happens to be one of my favorite Unity authors and ministers, shares this in a book called Celebrate Yourself. Strength is the reality of you. It is the divine level in which you need to identify whenever you're tempted to lean. Strength isn't always the brawn, the muscle that comes with it. The strength is more a mental game, mental capacity. Strength is the ability to persevere. It is the ability to yield, not only wait. Strength is the ability to yield, not only wait. What is the difference between yielding and waiting? Waiting at times can be passive. You can wait as long as you're willing to sit and wait. And nothing may happen because you're only waiting. You're not mentally preparing for anything. Waiting, when used correctly, it can be a time to be still and listen for the next move. But if we yield instead of stay only and wait, then you're expecting something, aren't you? When we yield in traffic, we're expecting things to pass by us or to stop. And so when we yield, it allows us to be aware of our environment that can give us insight to this journey towards our abundance. Some of the things that we might find coming our way as we yield is there might be an 18-wheeler packed full of impulse decisions. You know them. They're so full of impulse decisions that if you're behind them, they leak out of the thing and they bust your windshield, those things. But if we yield, we can recognize what's coming and stay back. Just enough. It could be the shady person that wants to show you the shortcut. Oh, I know how to get there. I know a better way. And then they tell you the better way, and then you realize you would have not taken the better way. Because while it may be their best way to get someplace, it may not be your best place to get someplace. So when we yield, we take the time to listen and get that discernment. It may be the person that's traveling at a snail's pace, and we know they really need to get by. And we're yielding and we're waiting. But that snail's pace may just be the class that you sat through that you didn't think, I'm never going to use this. How many of you think that about algebra? Tell that to my little sister who's redoing her floor right now. You kind of need to math to redo your floor. And so it may be things that we're going through, that we're yielding through, that we're waiting for some knowledge to come to us before we can reach that full potential to spark it into being. There's some things we might need to learn along the way. The reason I took a whole bunch of classes and went through seminary before I scored this happy little world of mine. But how many times have you done that where you've realized, oh, now I know why there was this pause, because I didn't know this and I know now, and it's so much easier because of it. Strength allows you to keep the excitement up, and it also allows you to tame the excitement. Because if you go in all head first and you dive right into whatever it is, this pool of abundance, and you don't check to see how deep the pool is, it could not end up well if you're jumping into a 3-foot deep pool. You might want to jump into at least a 6-footer, and that's if you know how to do that when you dive in. But we need to do that. We need to check out our surroundings, whatever it is we're moving into, that strength allows us to be able to yield and determine what is our next course. In closing this, we're closing with the power of life. It's the power that comes at the end of the year, in December. And it is the power that it makes it happen. If we don't have this, if we don't tap into this, we're not going to be able to make it happen to its fulfillment. Connie Fillmore is the great-granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity. And she shares in the Unity Guide of Healing. We can have fullness of life by realizing that we live in a sea of abundance, omnipresent, everlasting life, and by refusing to allow any thought to come in that stops the consciousness of the universal flow of life. Don't let it in. Whatever those things are, don't let them in. In order to give birth to abundance that comes our way, we mustn't create blocks. When we lean into life, the ability to produce is the process at which abundance comes into demonstration. So that allows us that time to have the ideas, the amazing things that come forth, to be like Catherine Ponder and even play with what you want coming forth. And be able to realize that it's coming into life, much like I spoke of last week with the rose that comes into bloom. It just unfolds. Any idea left at the conception remains just that. If you think of it and you don't do anything with it, there's not a magic wand that's going to make it happen. We have to take action. We have to be part of that life process. We are co-creators with God. It's a team effort. And you're not the only member of the team. So take the time to rely on resources. You have other expressions of the divine around you right now that could be resources. Leaning into zeal, strength, and life while watching abundance unfold, it is an endless process because abundance is endless. So don't think of it like you're moving from goal to goal to goal. That's not what abundance is. Abundance is divine substance flowing your way. Think of yourself in a river and you're enjoying your float. And you're paddling out of the muck if there's muck that comes by. You remember to put sunscreen on to protect you from things that don't serve you. But that flow is there. It carries you wherever you need to be. And when we do the work, we can be playful when we allow it. And we can set and rest in the assurance that God is everywhere present and all is well. In this, we can know that we are indeed unbound. There's nothing. Everything that we think blocks us or pauses us or holds us back is temporary. Open. Stay excited. Remember how it felt to be still and excited at the same time. That is your time, like you're at the horse race and the horse knows they're getting to race and they're chomping at the bit literally because they're excited to go, but they know until that gate opens. They just have to be ready. So we can ready ourselves and keep that zeal up, keep that excitement up, and be unbound in whatever comes our way. So it is. Shine on, y'all.